Hello, thanks for joining me again on this video. Um, this is the last video of the year and the last video in this little personal project of mine that I chose to do and challenge myself. And yeah, I've made it to 10 videos. I'm really proud of that. And I really thank you for joining me in engaging with this content. It's been challenging, it's been time consuming, but I am really glad that I saw it through. It was just something I set out to do, and I really do believe in the sharing of the information that I have shared. I think it's information that we as professionals hold for ourselves, and I guess the clients who come in to see us who are paying. But I think it's also important that this information is shared out widely for people to, I guess, use in their own healing and in their own journeys. And I think just because a person is not paying doesn't mean that, they can't use the information. So, in whatever way you've engaged with the content of these videos, um, I hope it's been helpful. And even if it hasn't, you know, it's what it is. Just, thank you for watching and engaging with it. Um, yeah. So in this particular video, the topic that I'm going to be finishing on is self-care, and I will also talk about some ways to manage burnout and vicarious trauma, which is the topic from that I've done in the previous video. Most of the things that I will talk about in managing or mitigating burnout and vicarious trauma are also things that you can use for your own self-care. Self-care is basically caring for ourselves, nurturing ourselves, our internal selves, our bodies, our systems, our internal systems, our emotions, our senses, and just being able to regulate ourselves. And it's probably important to note that demonstrating self care can also be intentionally or intentionally be ways to mitigate and address issues of burnout and vicarious trauma. Um, in this video, also, I guess I will also talk about um, addressing the issues that got you to be burnt out or traumatized in the first place. And then the ongoing management of these issues throughout life is, I guess, that ongoing process of caring for self and having and promoting a healthy self in our professional and also our personal lives. As I stated in the previous video, from a neurobiological perspective, where a person has experienced burnout or vicarious trauma, the general state of the body in that when people are burnt out or traumatized is that they are dysregulated. As I said, they are not balanced, their energy levels are off, their mood is flat. Sometimes therapists or people who are administering treatment and therapy to other people can tend to mirror their clients' or patients' emotional states, which is not helpful. Where we want to be is in a state where we're not mirroring other people or clients' states, but we are able to maintain our protective psychological distance so that we are still the wiser ones in that exchange and we're not pulled into the hole of despair. So, addressing self care is an important strategy of being able to do this. And I guess the key part of this is starting with regulating ourselves because we need to be able to use our higher thinking parts of the brain to address these issues and to care for self. Otherwise, when we try and address how we are feeling without regulating, we are going to struggle because we would still be in survival mode. So, first and foremost, we really need to be able to regulate our internal states of being, um, and so that we we have our executive functions working in a healthy manner to help us sort of come up with ways to address these issues. Um, so I spoke about the impact of vicarious trauma and burnout, which can affect the brain, which can affect the executive functioning. And here I'm going to talk about dysregulation. And when you have a dysregulated arousal, you're just trying to survive the moment, and you can be in the fight, flight, or freeze states as well. And we know that this is not a healthy state to be, especially for extended periods of time. And it's definitely not state to be in when you're trying to heal yourself, when you're trying to get to the other side of burnout, when you're trying to get to a place where, yeah, you're healing from vicarious trauma. So to get out of that survival mode, self-regulation, um, we need the higher level executive thinking brain skills. And of course, we need to utilize some self-regulating strategies, which have been largely called self-care activities. These activities can vary obviously from person to person based on one's preference, from getting a massage, or having a bubble bath, or doing yoga, or doing breathing exercises, listening to music, dancing, or doing art or other creative and mindfulness activities. These self-regulating strategies, or self-care strategies if you want to call them, can go a long way to help us regulate our internal body states, to get us to a point where we can think clearly. Um, Sometimes, that if that doesn't work, sometimes it can also be quite self-regulating when someone purposefully, intentionally takes time to for themselves, to think things through, um, taking time off work to go on a solo trip, or do activities that include just yourself, reconnecting with yourself again. These are really, really important strategies that can really help you. And also, at times just recognizing that at times we don't have capacity to be able to regulate ourselves, because based on the intensity of what we've experienced. And this is when we call upon a close, loving, nurturing relationship to hold space for us, so that we can co-regulate with them and share a moment of affection where they can hold space for us to just be. Um, so yeah, those are some of the self-care strategies, or if you want to call them self-regulating strategies that we have to use, um, to get to a point where we can, I guess, be in a state where we can think clearly, and also use our higher thinking skills to, I guess, execute ways to get to the other side of our own healing. So after we've regulated, we need to get to a place where we're using those higher level thinking strategies, and also our own internal, I guess, resources that we've gathered over time to address these issues of burnout and vicarious trauma. And this can be tricky when a person hasn't really cultivated any internal resources or any particular skills to deal with burnout, or in a state of being vicariously traumatized. However, it's obviously not impossible, because this is when we seek help, when we are feeling like we can't do it on our own. So some of those internal resources that I'm talking about here can include getting to a place where you have self-compassion, and also empathy about what you are experiencing in your own internal self, through burnout or the trauma that you've experienced, being able to reflect on how you got here, and also being able to make a plan and address the problem and ask for help from the right places and from the right people who have capacity and willingness to help and support you. So that's where you need that higher level executive skills, higher level executive skills to be able to plan that and think about, what do I need after this? What do I need after this? And it's also quite important to continue building, to always be building your own internal skills and resources as you go through life, because yeah, it's a part of being resilient and growing in life. All right, another way that we can address the issues of burnout and vicarious trauma can also include employing the concept of circle of control. I'm not sure whether you've heard of this before. This is when a person considers the things that are in their control, the things that are not in their control, and the things that are um, the things that are in their control. Sorry, the things that they can influence, and the things that are completely not in their control. So understanding this, and this can look like reflecting on and identifying some of the internal and I guess external or risk factors that contributed to you being in a state of burnout or trauma. And some of those external stresses, for example, can be things like, thinking about how stressful is your job? Is there high expectations on you? Um, is there high caseloads? Do you have a huge caseload? Are you supported by your leadership? Is there a toxic culture within your organization? Are you having financial stress, ongoing family expectations? Are you experiencing various kinds of discrimination? What's happening in terms of external stresses? Um, and also just considering some internal stresses of self, reflecting on whether you have boundaries, whether you are aware of what's happening in your body. Do you have a poor self view of yourself? Do you lack confidence, or do you feel like you're not competent? Are you able to advocate for yourself within the workplace? Do you have a healthy, integrated sense of self or identity? Being able to reflect on this requires that higher level thinking again, and being able to identify this so that when you lay these things out and figure out the things that are in your control, the things that you can potentially influence, and then put into practice, but then eventually just being able to also understand the things that are not in your control, and what are you going to do about those things that are not in your control. And it could be that you accept what's not in your control, but being able to lay all of these things out can be a bit of a game changer, psychologically, and a way that can get you out of that I guess, to the other side of burnout and vicarious trauma. um Another thing that I really, really strongly advocate for, getting you to the other side of vicarious trauma, burnout, and also self care activity is self empowerment, self learning, self education. Um, and this is a strategy I use for myself. Um, Being able to or put in time to understand and read extensively on concepts of that are relevant to your work can be really, really empowering. It's in these times that I guess you cultivate your self confidence, and you empower yourself, especially if you're doing a job that you're really interested in, you're keen on, you want to understand the issues that come across for you in your work, and you're able to look at these those things in a contextual and academic and intellectual level, it gives you a lot of confidence, a lot of self confidence, and it empowers you. It can be a very, very protective factor because, yeah, because it just grows your confidence and it helps you be competent in your work as a professional. But then also you can also empower yourself in your own personal life in various areas, so that you're not constantly feeling a sense of hopelessness. And yeah, so I do use this strategy quite a lot. Um, yeah, so I hope that can be useful for you as well. Um, Other two factors that I guess I've put together is that can help you get to the other side of addressing burnout or vicarious trauma is for people in helping industries, engaging in supervision, taking advantage of supervision, and also more generally people using employee assist counseling or programs. Within the helping industry, people, I guess employers are, I guess, mandated to provide supervision. A lot of organizations in Australia have employee assist programs or counseling. This is whereby businesses basically pay for their employees' counseling sessions to help them deal with issues that may come up while you're working for them. And these things can be burnout and vicarious trauma as well. Within the helping industry, as I've mentioned, there is also a professional obligation that employers should offer their employees supervision, which is basically a space to be able to, supervision is basically a space to be able to unpack cases with a colleague, which helps reduce the emotional load of a case, or um, and also helps the employees to support their client. Or the person they're treating. So, yeah, supervision and employee assist programs are really important. And these are some of the tools within the workplace that you can use to deal with vicarious trauma or burnout, and to care for yourself within the workplace, and by using the tools that are already there and provided readily by your employer. Another tool that is key to addressing burnout and vicarious trauma is having supportive leadership and being in an organization where there is a healthy culture as opposed to a toxic culture. And of course, these two, needless to say, are not in one person's control. So, and because while as an employee, you can influence a culture of your workplace through your contribution, you don't have control of how people in leadership are going to act. Um, that's not in your control. And the thing about burnout is that it thrives whereby leaders and managers are also in survival mode. Um, and if a manager's leadership style is punitive, it's neglectful, or it's all over the place, it can be authoritarian, sometimes it can be nurturing, sometimes it can be very unpredictable, whereby the employers are not trusting their employees, they don't trust the contribution they bring to the table, they don't inspire them if they have poor communication or punitive communication of expectations. Then there is a sense that employees will feel emotionally and psychologically unsafe, and these can have a really toxic cycle within the culture. And but then when the culture is great and healthy, people feel heard and valued through words and actions, and this can immensely benefit the economic productivity of a person's business, of the business, but also it can be really good for um, the employee's emotional wellness, which helps with a lot of things within the business. Um, yeah. So as I said, this part is not really in a person's control. So when while a person can influence the culture um, of a workplace, they can't single-handedly change it. And this is when, as an employee, you get to decide whether you have the capacity or the willingness to remain in an environment that is toxic and that doesn't really meet your needs, and is causing you more stress than it's worth. So it's up to you whether you want um, whether you need to change that whole environment completely by leaving the organization or not. So um, yeah, so there it is. So, and I think you've got to make really difficult decisions in terms like this, because you don't want to compromise your health. And it's really important for us to reflect on how certain environments and behaviors affect um, us as a part of our day to day, our self care activities, um, because this caring of self can lead to our own growth. It can help us enhance, or based on how it is, um, it can help us enhance our confidence. It can help us, enhance our sense of self, our sense of agency and self determination as we go through life, and while balancing the competing priorities of our lives. It's really important for us to be able to create and also maintain personal and professional quality of lives that we really want to have. So, thank you for listening, and hopefully you've gotten a few strategies of your own here that you can utilize in your own life. And as always, I welcome views, comments, questions, additions. And I thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to this last video of this personal project of mine. And thanks for engaging with the content that I have put out. Um, I am really grateful that I got to do this. I have really enjoyed the process of putting out these videos, and I am proud that I decided to share them out. I decided to challenge myself, um, and yeah, all of this despite the outcome. So, 10 episodes in, and no regrets, only learning. Thank you. I hope this has been helpful. And whatever the case, I really thank you for your attention and for your engagement. Thank you again.